It's about to be fuego, baby.
Hello, this is Linda Mallory checking in from the DMV to the Heart of Chat.
Hey. This is Jeanette, better known as Jean B. Your Philly fly girl kicking it in the dirty south. Let's get it.
Welcome to the Heart of Chat. Candid and connected conversation. Welcome to the Heart of Chat. Candid and connected conversation. Welcome to the Heart of Chat. Candid and connected conversation.
Hi, ladies. How are you? Hey, always good to see you. And we have a special guest today. Very, very excited. And so Shauna, Jeanette, and I'm Linda, in case you can't tell by the voice here. We talk about a lot of topics on the Heart of Chat, as you all know. So today we're talking about your money, your mindset, is when it comes to finances and everything from, yep, I've got this penny over here to, yep, I'm trying to save for a house to whatever. So in talking, Jeanette, Shauna, and I were talking about this topic, and we felt like this would be a great time and opportunity to bring on a special guest. And Melody Wright is here from Broke on Purpose. And I've been following you for a while. And Jeanette said, oh, I know Melody. I was like, wait a minute, I'm following her on Instagram. Look at that. So I love your content personally. And when we started talking about this, it was so easy. And we're formal in some ways, but most times we're not. So we started to talk about a show docket for this particular episode. I'm like, oh, this was easy. We came up with like 6 to 10 different things that we wanted to discuss. And we really appreciate Jeanette bringing the suggestion to bring you on. So Jeanette, did you want to add anything?
No, I just, I'm going to say no, and then I say yeah. So.
You're fine.
No, I think, Linda, you pretty much cover everything. Just want to give thank you, Melody, just for agreeing to be on here with us. I really appreciate it. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling our audience a little bit more about you and what you do.
Sure. So first, thank you, ladies, for having me here on the podcast with you guys. I love to talk about anything concerning finances, money, and how you can create what I call a rich life. So I am so glad to be here. And so just to introduce myself, my name is Dr. Melody Robinson Wright. I am the creator of the financial empowerment suite called Broke on Purpose, and I am also a financial empowerment coach and a certified financial education instructor. And so basically what I do is I help people navigate their finances from that feeling of being overwhelmed, disorganized, or just feeling like they just don't even know where to start. I take them from that point and bring them to a place where they have financial flexibility, where they're able to create what I call money management systems, and they're also able to live their version of a rich life. So they go through a whole transformation when they're working for me. We work on mindset, we work on techniques, we work on tips, we work on strategies, and then we take them to how am I able to actually utilize all these concepts that she taught me during the coaching in my real life. And so we go from start to finish. And when they leave here, or whether they leave working with me, they're able to really maximize their money. They're able to start to build wealth, and they're able to believe in themselves and what they can do with their finances.
That's amazing. That is awesome. So yeah, I think going back to the point about the mindset, kind of like, where would one start in that? Because there's things like debt, there's things like I need to save more, and yep, I want to buy a house, or maybe rent to own. I mean, where does somebody start in like adjusting their mind frame?
So that's a really good question. And so when I usually meet people, they're focused on the things that you just mentioned. I want to get out of debt. I want to buy a house. I'm trying to pay off my student loans. I'm trying to do all these things. But what they don't mention are the things that are keeping them from being able to actually achieve these goals that they just listed out. And so what I do is I always start with mindset. I always start with taking that client through a process of let's talk about why we're here in this position now. And let's weed out what those default behaviors are. What are those things that you tend to always fall back on whenever you feel stressed about money? What are those I call them lies? What are those lies that you tell yourself about money? You know, what are the things that you're listening to in terms of people, you know, giving you advice about money? So we go through all of that because that really shapes a person's mindset. And you're not going to be able to make a change with your finances until you start to weed out your financial garden in terms of pulling out those things that are distracting you, things that are strangling you, things that are denying you from being able to accept what, you know, new techniques and concepts that I'm going to put in your path for you to succeed. So we start there with the mindset. Once we level set and we come to a position of, okay, this is what you've been telling yourself. This is what we know isn't true. This is what we know is true. So moving beyond that, let's talk about how we're going to create this version of a rich life for you.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Great point.
How much of it, the mindset piece of it, where you find people have issues with it, do you feel comes from like just their upbringing and like how, especially when you talk about people in our community, like how we were raised and thinking about money and just one of the things when I started working on like my money mindset issues was just like the statements that like our parents might have said to us growing up, like, oh, we don't have money for that. You think money grows on trees and those type of things that we tell ourselves. And then we repeat as we get older. Do you think a lot of that stems from just your upbringing?
Oh, of course. And those are those default behaviors or those default settings that I was just talking about. And so for me, you know, even getting to a place where I was able to accept that I had the power to change my financial picture, it really came down to not repeating those things that were basically constants in our lives. So we always heard well, I'm broke. We can't afford this. You know, we can't do this, or that's white people stuff. You know, you would hear stuff all the time growing up like that. And it made you believe that, well, if my money looks like this, you know, then that means I can't do all these other things that I really want to do, you know, or they would make you feel like shame around your money, you know, like let's say that you weren't able to afford something, and instead of you just feeling like, okay, I can't afford it now, but later I'll be able to afford it, you automatically feel that shame because growing up you saw other people have things that you wanted and you knew your family couldn't afford it. And of course, you know, growing up as young kids, we tend to tease, we tend to, you know, make fun of, and so that brings the shame of not having enough.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of it has to go back to just really saying, okay, what were we taught growing up? What's true about those statements that we constantly heard growing up, and what's not true about those statements that we heard constantly growing up. So one can say I'm broke, but is it I'm broke and I have absolutely no money, or are you broke and you have $1,000 buffer in your checking account? Where's the truth here? You know, so for me being broke, when I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to change my financial picture. Me being broke meant that before I used broke on purpose as like my handle, meant that I only had $1,000 left in my checking account. Once it dropped to, you know, $999, that was it. I had no money. I was destitute. I was poor. Like I had to beg, you know, that was my mindset, because I realized that I had been living in such a state of paycheck to paycheck, and like literally paycheck to paycheck, like I really can't pay you until I get this check deposits at 12:01 a.m. on payday. You know, like I got so tired of living in that moment that I said, okay, you need to change. You need to have at least $1,000 in your checking account as a buffer. And once you hit that $1,000, that's it. Yeah. So that was my level of brokenness for me at that point in time. And so I think, again, it goes back to what are the lies that, or not even the lies, but what have you been told? What's true about what you've been told? What's not true about what you've been told? And what can you change about what you've been told?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Rewriting your story, breaking those generational curses, those baggage that's been handed down, and all of the things.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't even know they're generational curses until like you really start to put it out on the table and you say that's not right. Like why are we doing this? Like why are we always doing this? Why do we always find ourselves in this spot? And that's when you realize like, okay, this is a generational curse because XYZ keeps the trend going in our family.
Mhm.
You know, and so I think getting to that point where, again, you're rewriting your story, you're realizing, you know, what's going on in your life, and then just saying, this is what I want different from me. And then
Yes.
it goes into setting out what those goals are for your version of a rich life. And that's how
Yes.
we go into reframing that mindset to building out your money management system.
And I like that you said your version,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because we get into this comparison, you
Mhm.
know, and looking at the grass is greener on the other side, or looking at everybody's, you know, counting their ducats, their dollars, their lifestyle, and now focus on the lifestyle that you're trying to create.
Yeah, so that's something whenever I can get with the group, and Jeanette was in my last Coins and Conversations, and that was something that I told the group, like, I fully believe that I live a rich life. Like, people can be like, well, you drive a 2013 Kia and it got dents in the hood. Okay, girl, but it ain't got no payments.
I'm rich.
Like, I'm
Exactly.
living a rich life.
Definitely.
So, you know, so it's definitely, it's my version. It's like, if I can afford the things that make me light up with joy every time I experience them, like, that's my version of a rich life. And if it means that I have to drive this 2013 Kia to do it, then I'm going to do that, because
Yes.
that's what's important to me. So it's really just, again, that goes to the reframing. You know, we see, oh, so-and-so has this, so-and-so has that, so-and-so has this. And social media has caused us to compare ourselves
Goodness.
to death.
Mhm.
So we see, oh, that influencer has this, that influencer has that. That means if I don't have that, I'm not this.
Yeah.
Right? So we start to create those narratives in our head. And I was just like, forget what they have. As long as I have joy, as long as I'm not, you know, spending all my money on things that I don't need or want, as long as I'm able to do the things that I want to do when I want to do it, that's my version of a rich life.
Right, right. I love that point, Melody. I mean, it just makes so much sense. And what we see, all these different things just coming in. There's actually a show on Netflix now called The Social Dilemma. Oh my goodness. Have you ladies seen that?
No.
It is, yeah. I'm the TV buff of the group. Anything, when you want to know what's on tonight, I can break it down. But that right there, I mean, it just shows you how you could get sucked in and thinking that your mindset aligns with what these folks have going on. And you really have to, you know, dig deeper into yourself and really look at things. And I love what Jeanette's question was earlier about, is it family traditions? Are things passed down? I'm just from personal experience. And my grandmother was a credit card junkie. I mean, she had one credit card to pay the other. It's okay, baby. You can do that. You can if you want with this. I'm like, no. And now, you know, she's passed on, but you know, I've been living in my same house for 21 years. People say, oh, you can go out and get this big old house. Why don't you do that? That's great for you. But here I am here and driving my 2015 minivan. You know, oh, even my kids sometimes, Mom, you should go out and get this car. Nope, here we are. Son in college, daughter, you know, at home doing virtual school at this moment, but this is where we are. So yeah, I mean, I think
you're
that's a great point. Yeah, and being happy, the joy that you talk about, I think that's also a key point, and really having it align with you. Yeah, excellent.
One of the things that I find, especially like, so when I was getting ready to turn 30, I was like, well, so I'm gonna clean up my whole life. And when I turn 30, and it's gonna be great, I'm gonna fix all my issues that I had when I was in my 20s. And then you spend like all your 30s cleaning up your life. And then you hit 40 and it's like, oh, okay, so now I'm an adult, you know. But one of the things I found when like working through like my finances and like me and my husband working through like cleaning up our credit and stuff was just like the guilt. Like, so even though like we made strides, we were able to buy our first home, all those things, I still had like the personal guilt of, I can't believe I let myself get into that situation. Like, why did I do that? Or I was making so much money at this job. Like, what do I have to show for all that money that was coming in at that time? Like just finding a way to release that guilt and accepting it. So do you find like, or what advice do you have for people who are probably older and now at a point where they're like, I need to clean up my credit, or feel like it's just too late, I've been living like this my whole life? Like, you know. Right.
So that's a really good question. And you just mentioned how you kind of felt shame around the debt that you had. And, you know, even though you had a good job, you were making a lot of money, but then you still had this debt. So you felt that shame around it. Right. And so in my upcoming book called Start Here, Your Guide to Building Your Money Management System, I actually share a story about how I was in a similar position where, I felt all this shame around all the debt that I had. And I was faced with, how do I even tell my husband about the debt? So I was scared into silence because I didn't want to, upset him, or I didn't want him to look at me differently. And I was embarrassed. He would be like, well, you're supposed to be this, savvy person and you have all this debt. How? So to answer your question, which I completely forgot, was
talking about like around money and it not being basically too late to start over.
Okay. So it's never too late to get a start with your finances. You're always going to find articles online that say, oh, you should be doing this by this age, and you should have this much in your account by this age. If you're not doing this and you're this age, you're behind. I just say hit the X on the box and keep it moving, because I even read those articles and I'm like, oh, but I don't have that. So it makes you feel like you've been left behind or you haven't been living your life correctly, right? And so again, that's putting other people's perception around how you handle your finances. But if you're looking at a more mature age to get started with your finances, the first thing you want to do is, it's always going to go back to, what are your goals? What things are you trying to do in the near future? What are you trying to do next week? What are you trying to do next month, the next 3 months, 6 months, a year from now? What are those things? And you want to get really clear on them, right? You need to be really specific, because you can't just say, oh, I want to get out of debt. Okay, great. But we've been telling ourselves that how long? For how, so let's get really specific here. How, like when you say, I want to get out of debt, what debt are you trying to pay off? Are you trying to pay off your car loan? Are you trying to pay off your house? Are you saying this is a season where I'm going to pay off my student loans? What are we really trying to do? Because from that specific goal, we can break it down into mentally manageable pieces. And mentally manageable pieces is huge, because if you say, I'm going to pay off my $100,000 of student loan debt, how many of you are really going to actually keep going after that goal? Like, because that $100,000, that number itself is so intimidating. It causes so much anxiety. Like, you're just going to be like, I tried it. I couldn't do it. It took too long. I just gave up. Right. But if we break it down into mentally manageable pieces, and we say, okay, this month, I would like to pay this much towards my student loans. It gives you a specific goal, and it gives you a clear objective and a timely objective that you can actually work towards. So if you're more mature and you're saying, okay, I want to get my finances together, what do I do? Be very clear on your goals. What is it that you're trying to do? By what time do you want to achieve it? And what type of change or transformation is that goal going to bring to your life? And I ask that question because we want to go after our goals in terms of priorities. So you want to make sure that you're going after your goal. Like, if you have a goal that says, I want to pay off my student loans, but then you say, but I want to get caught up on my bills so that I'm not late. Which one is the priority here, right?
Yes.
The priority is that you get caught up on your bills so that you're not late. So that's why that specificity is so important, because it allows you to look at it and say, I'm in control here. I'm going to decide what's important to me now and what's important to me later, and be able to go down that journey at your pace and in a way that you are able to mentally manage it. Because finances, when you're on a personal finance journey, no matter what age range you're in, it's depending on what your debt is. It could be a very, very, very long, exhausting road. Right. And so when you're breaking it down into these mentally manageable pieces, you're allowing yourself to have these quick wins that create this endorphins in your body that say, oh, I did that. I achieved that goal. Yes. On to the next one. Right. And so when you're at a more mature age, you're probably going to have a lot more goals than somebody else, because you're trying to do stuff a little bit faster because you feel like you're trying to catch up. So that specificity allows for those quick wins, and it allows you to keep going towards whatever goal you have. And again, don't compare. Don't look at what somebody else has. Don't say, well, I should have done this. Don't fall into the shame. Just keep going at the rate that you should be going, or you feel you should be going, and you will reach your goals in time.
Melanie, do you believe in rewards after getting some quick wins? And if so, what type of rewards, and how do you not get off track? Because sometimes you can reward yourself a little too much, having too much of a party, and then you set yourself back from it.
Yes, I definitely believe in rewards. We're human, right? So like we can't deprive ourselves. Some people will say, I'm gonna go on a no buy and I'm not buying anything. And I'm like, that's not realistic. Just cancel that. Don't do that. Right? That's because you're gonna fall, and when you fall, you're gonna fall hard.
I'm so glad you
Right,
said
you're
that.
gonna fall hard. You're right. You're right.
Amazon, here I come.
So what you should do if you set a goal and at the end of that goal, you want to reward yourself, make that reward be in line with whatever that goal was you were trying to achieve. So if you're just trying to get caught up on your bills, that does not mean you take a trip to Aruba. Like that goal.
Scratch that, Shauna. Well, hold on. Let me scratch that, Melanie.
Trinidad for you.
Right.
That just doesn't align, right? But if you're trying to get caught up on your bills and you're able to do so successfully, reward yourself with a nice dinner. And when I say dinner within reason, like we're not going to Ruth Chris, like we, just go to a place that is maybe mid-range, maybe it could be even cheap, but you just love going there, right? Go there and enjoy a nice meal, for yourself. Or for me, I set goals, and when I achieve my goals, I allow myself to buy maybe something that's like mid-range designer or something like that, right? But in order for me to achieve those goals, I have to have the money saved up to be able to treat myself in that way. So if I achieve the first goal and I don't have enough money in the designer fund, then I can't do it yet, right? So on to the next goal, and by then maybe I'll have the money in there. So that's kind of how I do it. But I do say always reward yourself, even if it's like I'm gonna reward myself by eating this chocolate. I'm gonna reward myself by buying those shoes that I saw. Like just something small, but again, make it in line with whatever that goal is. So if you pay off $100,000 to student loans, by all means, go to Aruba, right?
That's Aruba bound, right?
That's Aruba. That is Aruba. But getting caught up on your bills, I wouldn't correlate those two together.
That's good. That's good. How do you feel about so you have savings, emergency funds, all these umbrellas that you want to try to have, these layers? What are your thoughts on between the two? What are your thoughts on emergency fund and savings, and how much money, or which one should you stock up, or should you be working both of them simultaneously for the beginner?
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is that you should always be saving money. I don't care if you only got $5 left at the end of the month. If you're able to make it to that next paycheck that comes on the first of that next month, put that $5 into a savings account. You don't have to save a lot, just save something. Okay. Because saving money is not just about you having that money for when you need it, but it's really about creating a habit. And so if you create that habit, it becomes something that you're just going to do naturally. They're just going to put money into your savings account every single month. And when you're trying to decide between, should I just save money, just save it, or put it in an emergency fund, and which one is more important, they're both equally important. But your savings can be broken down into so many different categories, right? And so in my book, I break down in the money management system what that looks like. So when you have an emergency fund, that's probably going to be one of your first things that you're going to want to put money into, because with an emergency fund, it's there for emergencies, but really the whole point of an emergency fund is that it has your back. It's like that superhero that comes in and saves you when you need it, right? So you just put the bat signal up, emergency, I don't know, whatever it is, but it comes in and saves you. And if you don't have any money in it, it just can't do it. Yeah. And when you're thinking about how much money you should put in your emergency fund, there's going to be a lot of different advice out here. I think that there's that one guy who tells people to only save $1,000, but let's be realistic here. For a lot of people, $1,000 is a lot of money. I'm not negating that at all, but in the current climate that we're living in, $1,000 is the new $20 bill, okay? Because it goes just like that. So we have to be really cognizant of our needs in terms of what an emergency might look like for us. So if you are, if you're just starting out and it's just you are single, you're living by yourself, you might say, okay, $1,000 is enough for me. So that's going to be my goal. But if you're married and you have a family with kids, $1,000 might not be enough for you. So you might say, you know what, I might need $5,000 in my emergency fund, or maybe even more. So when I'm working with clients, one of the things I ask them is, how much money do you need in your emergency fund to help you sleep well at night? You know, I have them think about that, because when you're thinking of, when you think about just having $1,000, you might be like, because that, when I had to get new tires and then I had to do this and I had to do that, $1,000 was gone. You know, so you might say, I don't feel comfortable just having that. And again, if that's all you can save, please don't feel like if you only can save $1,000, you're not doing enough. Again, it's really about saving something. So even if you're just getting started, let's say you're in high school, you know, fresh out of college, getting to $500 in an emergency fund is still a huge achievement. You know, reach that goal, and again, build the habit of just putting money into it every single month until you get to, you know, that long-term goal. So again, with emergency funds, you can break those down into mentally manageable pieces. Okay, for this season, I want to save this much. You know, and after that, I want to save this much. So you can reutilize these techniques in so many different areas of your finances. But again, it really just comes down to save something.
Yes. How do you make this fun? You know, speaking about money and in our communities is sometimes like a taboo subject. You don't really talk about it. You just work things to the best of your ability. My late husband was, we called him Mr. Finance. He was all into the financial world. And our emergency fund, we would sit down every week and we would have our money meetings. And I would say, oh, this is like pulling teeth. Can we just get through this? I'm like, we got to make this fun. Like, I got to call these different funds different names. I'm sorry.
Shauna needs her fun.
Yeah, I got to have my fun. And so he named our emergency fund. He said, okay, we're going to call our emergency BFF. And I'm like, oh, yeah, best friends forever. He like, no, we only using it if it's blood, flood, or fire. I'm like, oh, my God. But I took the BFF way and just was like, okay, this is exciting. I'm going to take care of my BFF because my BFF's going to take care of me, you know. So I needed that because my husband was straightforward. He was a numbers guy. It was exciting for him. Like, you're zealous about it. But for a lot of people, it's like, okay, what I got to do. So can you give us some example of how we can kind of make it fun or just inviting to want to even take the steps to do what we need to do for ourselves?
Yeah, so money, you're right. Money was one of those taboo topics that we, like, especially in African-American households, it just was not discussed beyond, I'm broke, we ain't got it, you know, something like that. So making money fun really comes down to, and I'm gonna sound repetitive here, but it really goes down to getting excited about what your goals are. Yeah. Right. And so, like, if you have this goal of, let's say, paying off your student loans, let's say you have student loans and you pay $500 a month, right? And if you pay off your student loans, that means you have $500 to do whatever you want with. Wow. Right. So you can start planning ahead of time what you want to do with those $500. And they might say, don't count your chickens before the eggs hatch. Right. But you can go ahead and start saying, okay, once we pay off the student loans, these are all the things that we can do with this $500. So it gets you excited and makes you want to achieve that goal faster. You know, you can give it fun names like you just did, you know, like you and your husband did with the BFF fund. I use money envelopes. I don't think I have any in front of me, but I use money envelopes for the cash system of budgeting. And so my money envelopes have really fun names like Latte Loop. That means this is all my coffee money for the month. Like, treat yourself.
See, now you're talking to me.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, like, oh, yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah, so treat yourself is like the envelope for, you know, whatever I want to do for myself. I can only use the money in this envelope, you know, so it's foodie fun. That's my, you know, drive through, going out to eat money. So that's how, when I was doing the cash method of budgeting, like, that's how I would, you know, make it fun for me. And now I use it strictly for my allowance money that I get. So every month, me and my husband, we call it an allowance. Some people might feel like, you're too old to be getting an allowance, but, you know, so we get spending money or whatever. So, cause we combine incomes, and a lot of people are like, what? So we combine incomes, we work out of one account. But each month we, you know, hey, this is yours, no questions asked, as long as you respect me, and, you know, no questions asked.
Yes, that's what we did. I said, if I follow everything you tell me to do, this envelope, you saying this envelope here is mine, and it will increase every month. And I'm telling you, it increased every year. My allowance started getting bigger and bigger, just taking a little bit of time, like you said, and investing in yourself and being patient with it. It will grow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. That's cool.
So with that, that's how I made it fun. A lot of people use charts where if they're paying off debt, they color it in. If they've reached if they reach a certain milestone, they start to color it in. So that gives them that visual aspect of seeing how far they've come and how much further they have to go. And really, if you're having a money meeting with your spouse or your significant other, that meeting doesn't necessarily have to just be about, okay, we just gonna look at these numbers and it's gonna be super boring. Make it a mini date. Like, make one of those really nice charcuterie boards that everybody seems to be making nowadays. Have some wine, but put on some music, but make it something that it's fun for you two together. So that way it's not just like this dreaded thing that you are doing. And if you are single and it's just you, I would still, like pour a glass of wine, or do something that makes it fun for yourself as you go over your numbers. Put on some music that you like to hear. It doesn't have to be this like boring, horrible conversation. And as you continue to work on your finances, you're going to find that you're going to be spending less and less time in those money dates or those money meetings, because everything is working out exactly as you planned it. So you don't have to sit here for hours trying to budget and balance and figure out, which Peter you robbed to pay Paul. And you don't have to do that. Right? Because everything is working out. So you come in and you can be like, you good? You good? Anything changed? Nope. All right, we're sticking with the same thing we did last month. Let's keep it. It works. Don't need to change it.
Follow the
right?
plan.
So those are my tips for making it fun. But again, it goes into envisioning like what's on the other side of the debt, getting really excited about that. That's what I had to do with my husband to get him on board with living the broke on purpose lifestyle. I was like, listen, if we do this, then we get to do this, right? I had to like put into it like that. He was like, wow, okay. Like, I get it now. See, because I told him, I was like, if we don't go to Aruba, because we've been saving up to go to Aruba, I said, we could pay off your car. I said, but that means we can't go to Aruba, but we won't have any more car payments. So what would you rather do? Go to Aruba for like 5 days and come back and still have months of car payments? Or would you rather just pay off the car and not have any more car payments? Like, it's like weigh the pros and cons there, get them really excited and really thinking about it. And that makes it fun, because then again, you could be like, all right, so now we have $300 and something that was going to the car payment. What can we do with it that will maximize our lives and let us live that rich, that our version of a rich life that we've been wanting to do, but never had the money to do.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that example about the car, because that was a post that got me lit up when I was on your IG account, that you said how much money that you saved between the two of you for paying off your car.
That was life change.
And and I love this. I'm quoting it out. I hope I wrote it correctly, but you said after you did that, you said that it allowed more options for your life. And you said some of the sacrifices you're making to pay down your debt may seem hard in the moment, but no one but you has claims to your money. It will be well worth it. So now you're in charge. One of the things my husband used to teach me and my nieces and nephews was, he would pull out a dollar bill and he would say, do you want this to enslave you, or do you want to be in charge of it? It's like, how do you want it? Are you in charge of it? So I liked when you said that, because it will be well worth it, when you take the time. And I think that was beautiful, how fired up that you were to pay your car off.
Yeah. It is when you have control over your money, it is life changing. And I want people to be able to experience that, that transformation, because once you experience it, you don't want to go back. And you will do whatever you can to make sure that you won't go back. Like even now we are saving up for our next car purchase, because I said I refuse to make any more car payments unless now, and I always say there's always a caveat, because if there's another way for me to build wealth while having these car payments, then that might be the option to go down, because it's not always about just don't have debt, because it's always, you got to think about that wealth building aspect, but our number one goal is to not have car payments, or if we decide to do it because we want to take this extra money and invest or do something else, have it be as little as possible. I'm talking about $100 a month, so something like that. So you just want to get to again, it goes back to what is your version of a rich life? Is it not having any bills besides your normal like electricity,
Living
water, and things
expenses.
like that? Because people like, oh, you always have bills. No, those they like, but you
That's
don't always have
living
bill
expenses.
bills. Like there are
Yeah,
bills and
right.
there's bills.
Yes.
It's different.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it just really goes back to that. And because I've been living without bills for so long, I might have to move back in with my mom if I
Right. You do whatever. You do whatever.
Point. I love the cash envelopes. I love the car thing. I'm in the near term, 6 more months for my car payment. And I love the point what you said about forward thinking. In March, I'll be done with my car payment. Like planning ahead and thinking along those terms. I mean, it's October and I just realized it while you were speaking. I'm like, wow, March 2021 is going to be here in no time. And I'm already thinking, about that payment already. So
all the things that you can do. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Even if you put even if you put like an additional like $20 towards it every month, that's going to speed that up.
Yeah, you're right. Just taste it. Look at this big minivan. My son, my 6'6" son and my daughter, we're, we were traveling, all before the pandemic hit, all the games and all these different things. I got this huge car, which I love, by the way, it's great. But now to know that it's in the near term, it's going to be paid off. I'm getting excited already. And yes, the cash envelope for my favorite coffee shop, yeah, I can. It's upstairs in my purse because that is a every Saturday reward. Going back to what you said, and a quick win reward at that. So doing all the things in that arena. So I love that point. Love that.
I have another question, Melanie. Your thoughts around. So once you get to the point, where you have a plan, your plan is working. We have to deal with inflation, and we have to deal with the dollar today is not the same dollar next year, is not the same dollar next month, it's not the same dollar tomorrow, the next hour. So as far as investments and stocks and portfolios and things of that nature, when a person is ready to kind of dive into that, can you speak around that and what that means?
So so I don't give too much investing advice because I'm not certified to do that, and I ain't trying to get locked up. So, but when you're thinking about investing, when you're thinking about getting into the stock market in terms of like things like that, what you really want to do is to do your research. Always, always, always do your research. It's kind of normal for us to be like, oh, well, so-and-so said do this. And so we just dive right in and do it their way, but we really don't understand the risk that go along with investing. Investing is full of risk, but it's also full of rewards. And so you really have to understand what you're getting into and how you are going to play the game. And so what I tell people to do is to get a basic book on investing. I mean, it could be Dummy's Guide to Investing. It doesn't have to be anything where you have to like look up words and do all that stuff like that, or watch YouTube videos, or even get into some investing courses. There's tons of investing courses out there that you can get into that will actually teach you how to invest. But if you're trying to do it on a simple term, what I say is if you're getting into the stock market, and it's the piece of advice that you'll hear a lot, is to invest in companies that you believe in. Invest in companies that you actually use. If just because you heard that this random company was about to take off doesn't mean you jump all your money into it. But if you've been using, let's say, AT&T religiously, you've never changed, they've never failed you, invest in that company, because you're investing in something that not only that you believe in, but you're investing in a company that you can trust on top of that. So it really doesn't come down to how much money can I make, but it's really about, is this company aligned with my values, and will they help me make money at the same time, when I invest into them? That's kind of what that's my approach to investing. Again, and I don't want to give too much advice again.
That's good. That's good general knowledge in case for our listeners may be at that point where they're trying to figure out how to research.
Yeah, and I think that I think before you jump into hardcore into investing, you need to have a solid financial plan. Because for investing, what you can do is say, okay, I'm going to set aside so much money every single month to invest. So you're not just saying, because Apple just did a split, right? So it made it more affordable for people to be able to get into it. So now, I think now it's trading like $114 per share. Before it was like $400 per share, right? And people could only buy partial shares. Now it's more affordable where you can buy, I can tell you guys this, now it's more affordable.
It's public. It's public.
It is, yeah.
Now it's more affordable where you can buy more shares, because you could buy a whole share at $114. So let's say that if you're thinking about getting into investing, your financial plan is set, you still have a plan to save money, you have a plan to pay off debt, but now you want to invest and you say, okay, I want to put this much into the stock market. You can go into with these different brokerage accounts where you can either buy a partial share of a stock. Let's say if the stock is $500, you say, well, I only want to buy $100 worth of this stock. They'll let you do that. So that's one way you can get into it as well. So you don't have to have a lot of money to get into investing. I think that should have been the most important thing I would have said. You don't have to have a lot of money to get into investing like you would have before, but you do need to have a plan and goals and all those other things that go along with creating your financial house in place.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, great points. Jeanette, I think you talked about Melody's program, Coins and Conversations. Is that the right name, Melody?
Yeah.
For your program? Can you talk a little bit about that, if you're still offering that, and any tips there?
Yeah, so Coins and Conversations, it came about because I really wanted to create an intimate space for women to come together and just talk openly about money. Because again, you guys said, finances is a taboo subject. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about how much money they make, how much money they're losing, their debt, their struggles. Like, we only talk about money when we're asking for money or we're complaining about money. Those are really the only times we're talking about money, And so I wanted to create a space where women could come together and just feel safe and just be able to vent, share, and learn. And that's how Coins and Conversations came about. And in that space, I do a short teaching where I talk about different topics, and those topics allow for open conversation and open dialogue. And so in those, I do a lot of talking. So I want the audience to talk to me instead. Tell me what they're feeling, tell me what they're seeing and stuff and so that's kind of how I do the prompt. And then at the end, there's a financial learning experience where they actually do hands-on types of learning projects. And so this last one we just did, we actually did a financial learning experience called Your Budget is a Box. And it showed them how to budget actually using balls that goes into boxes that simulate how big that debt is. So if you had like a large mortgage, it was a large ball. If you had like a little small debt, it was like a little small ball. So you had to put everything into the box, and it basically showed them what could fit, what couldn't fit, how are you budgeting, what's important to you, what are your values, what are your priorities. It took all that into consideration. So it helped them to think differently about the way they budgeted. Am I doing those now? A lot of people have asked me that. And because we're in this pandemic, and because I have a background, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I have a Ph.D. background in microbiology, immunology, concentration parasitology, I don't want to go outside.
I hear you.
I study these types of things. And so I'm just like, people are just out having fun. I'm just like, the hell?
Agree.
And because it's an intimate space, so it's in the smaller rooms, and we're sitting closer to, it's hard for me to feel comfortable recreating something like that in the current climate that we're in. I've been trying to figure out how to take it virtual, because it's something that I really want to be able to offer, because I saw that the ladies did get so much out of it. Jeanette was there. Jeanette, I don't know if you want to share how the experience was for you.
Yeah. No, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. And like you said, just seeing other women wanting to have a conversation around money, and it was so many of us there. The budgeting box was fun. We broke off into groups, and one of the things for me was, what I liked about kind of how you taught it was, okay, well, this might matter to you, but it might not matter to someone else. So like Linda got to have her Starbucks fun, and, I can make coffee at home. I like Dunkin' Donuts. I'm good. I can just make my K-cups at home, and like, not necessarily depriving yourself and say, well, I can't have this, I can't have that. And say, okay, well, what are you willing to give up so you can get that into your box? So I like that everyone's box looked different. and where we landed looked different. And I love that it was different generations in there. So it was some younger ladies that were like maybe right out of college or in college, and it was some of us that were like married with children and a little bit older, and just to be able to like, you know, learn from each other and to see that you're not the only one that's like feeling this way. Because I know for me, I manage our finances in our house. My husband is Southern boy, very old school, and he's just kind of like, here's my check, go do what you need to do with it. And I'm like, do you need gas? You want to buy yourself something this week? I'm like, don't just give me all your money. Like, be grateful I'm not a woman that's just gonna take
Right.
all your money. I mean, I appreciate him, but that can put a lot of stress on the person that's managing the finances. So, but yeah, Coins and Conversation, it was great. I would love, you know, for it to be a regular thing. No pressure, but you know.
Yeah, so I'm looking to bring it back virtually to see how it goes virtually. And I think still even in a virtual space, it would still work because we won't have the hands-on learning experience. But again, it's really more of the conversation and feeling that sense of belongingness, you know, with other people. Because once other people start to share their financial stories, like Jeanette said, you realize you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And it releases that shame you've been feeling around your finances, because you might be holding shame for something that is completely common, and everybody in the room will be like, oh girl, I did that, like that's me, you know. And so that's why I really want to be able to bring it back. And also it allows me to introduce like real life situations in there, because with Your Budget is a Box, you know, after they got their boxes all perfect and nice, and I was like, oh, life happened. You have to budget for this now. You know? Yeah. So it really got them thinking about, okay, you know, life does happen. So how do I respond to that? How do I react to that? Like, do I just be like, oh, just forget it, my budget's screwed, I'm not going to follow it anymore? Or do I say, okay, well, I haven't done this and this yet, so maybe I can do this, or how does that? So it gets them to really think. So when they go home and life happens, they can apply those same things they learned to their actual, you know, budgets at home.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Excellent point.
I saw on your IG another, like the 4 steps you have for stages of paying off your debt. Mm-hmm. And admitting you have debt was your number one. Was the number one thing. And that goes along with the mindset. Mm-hmm. And then you had coming up with a payoff plan, working, and then third, you had working your payoff plan for it to match your monthly goals. And then your fourth was paying off all debt and use it to be able to breathe. And when I saw the fourth one and I saw breathe, I was like, oh yeah. And I was thinking this should be called a life plan to breathe, you know. She just gave me oxygen, you know, with these steps. But how do you, I know that you were kind of like the fourth in your marriage, you kind of was leading the way. In my marriage with my late husband, he had to lead me that way. We were in our early 20s and he was speaking to me about this and all of these things. How do you, if one person in a marriage or in a partnership understands and sees the value in this, you know, how do you get the other person on board? Because it's hard to do this by yourself, pulling against, you know, having the difference, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I ask that question a lot. How do you get the other person on board? Because you might say, you know what, you might be fed up and just say, something's got to change. You know, the other person might be like, I kind of felt like it was nice in here, you know? So it really comes down to, sometimes you have to accept that you are going to have to start working parts of your journey by yourself. You can create the plan. You can share that plan with your significant other, your partner. And I always say, keep them in the loop, you know, because they might be like, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not. And they can say that, but don't get discouraged. Work whatever part of the plan that you can work, and then share the wins and successes with them. So don't say, look what I did, look what we did. Always include them in that success. Even if they say on vacation, they did absolutely nothing. Include them in that success, because you want them to start to identify with that team. You know, you look at your family as, your family's not made up of individuals. Your family unit is a team. Yes. It's team So my last name is Wright. So we're Team Wright. We're not Melody and Marcus, each working on our own individual goals. So we're a team. And so when we were first getting started, I told him, I was like, hey, look, when I finally told him about the debt, surprisingly, he was like, oh, okay. He's like, so what are we going to do? Like, he was really calm. It was scary. It's really calm.
Really so stressed about stuff sometimes. And then when it comes out, they're like, all right.
Yeah, so he was really calm about it, but I was like, I have this plan, this is what we're gonna do, and all stuff like that. And when I said this is what we're gonna do, in his head it was like, this is what you're gonna do, right? And so I had to start to implement all the different phases of Broke on Purpose, the money management system, into our lives. And at the end of each month, I was like, babe, we paid off, $2,300, or we did this, we did that. He didn't do nothing, but I was still acting as if he did it so that he would start to feel like he was included. And I think once he started to really see some of the changes that were happening because of this, because I can say, because we did this, now we could do X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. How does that make you feel? Like, don't you get excited about that? Or just share some of those dream goals that you have. They remember when we were always talking about how we wanted to do this, where we're so many months away from being able to do this, but I just need you to do X, Y, Z to help me get there. Mm-hmm. So always include them, always share what the big picture is, always share what the goal is. And just really ask them, like, where do you see our family going? What do you want us to do? Because they might have a whole completely different picture of what they want their lives to look like versus from what you want your family life to look like. And so it's really important to share what those visions are, compare and contrast them, and then meet in the middle. Because maybe once you meet in the middle, you'll have your family's version of what a rich life is. Create family pillars. What are important to you? Like, what are your family's beliefs? Like, create a family statement. This family believes in X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. Maybe it could be, we believe in serving God, helping others, building wealth, and all this stuff like that. So you can go back to whatever your family creed is, and keep that in mind and say, hey, babe, this doesn't align with our family creed. We said we wanted to be able to buy some investment properties, but if we keep doing this, we're never going to be able to buy them. And just talk about it like that. And slowly but surely, they will hopefully get on track with you. There's also financial coaching, so I work with a lot of couples, and the couples will come in and they'll both have different views of what their money looks like. And at the end of the coaching, they've created this cohesive view of what their family looks like, what they want their financial goals to look like, what their goals look like, all that stuff. So they're working now as a team to get it done. Because I assign individual homework. Okay, husband, you do this. Wife, you do this. You're going to meet in the middle. You're going to talk about it. And then we're going to come back into the coaching session and we're going to see how did this work. So it's really about creating that custom plan for the family unit, because you don't want to compare where the Johnsons are doing this. No. The Johnsons could be millions of dollars in debt. You don't even know it, so you can't emulate your life after theirs. But it's really about just, again, sharing, talking, just doing the work, and just, hopefully, and praying. Praying that they see the vision the way you see it, and, that they'll come on board.
Yeah, I really like what you said about creating like your own family creed, or the pillars for your family, because it kind of goes back to changing like the mindset and creating like your own traditions and beliefs around money in your household. Because when you're married or in a relationship with someone and you're bringing both your finances together, you're also bringing like those mindsets and like how they grew up and how they were raised into that same mix. And being able to sit down and create your own is really important. I know my parents, it's so funny. My mom, she was, my dad, it's so funny you marry people like your father. It's crazy. But my dad was the same way. Like he was the primary breadwinner. My mom always worked, but he always made really good money, and in our standards of what really good money was. But he was like, back when you used to take your check to the bank and cash it, he'd be like, give me X amount of money. He would, whatever he wanted, he would save for it. And then he'd be like, I need $200. You take the rest, do whatever you need to do with it. And I remember her using credit cards, like Linda was talking about, to buy like me and my brother's school clothes. Like she had all the department store credit cards. And then her just like, Robert Peter to pay Paul. She wasn't talking to my dad. He was just like, here's my check, whatever. And then her being so stressed out, and we were way older at this point, she was just trying to like, get them out of debt. And one day he was like, I don't know what you're so stressed about. And she said, oh, you don't know? So here you go. She gave him all the papers, all the accounts, and said, you take care of everything. I'm done. And that probably lasted for 2 months.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. And my dad was like, okay, like she said, you should see him running around here trying to get to this place. Cause of course he's not tech savvy. So he's like going to places trying to pay bills. And that like just handing it off to him and like, you take it was like what broke him and said, okay, well, let's sit down. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Now they're at a point where, of course, it's been years now, but like they really have like conversations around money. They make goals together and how they plan and, spend. And it's been a big sense of relief for her. And same with me, like just being able to have that conversation with him. But back to the original point of just, I love that idea of being able to create your own core beliefs around money and how you want to run your household and what goals and setting goals together. I think that's really important because, I have all kind of goals of things I want to do. He just want to go see LeBron play one day. Like, that's it. I just want to see LeBron play in person.
Yeah, I mean, like, so my husband and I, like, we, growing up, Christmas is, I feel like is, it's a huge, it's a big deal for a lot of families. But for me, I just saw it as we were always so stressed out trying to buy all these gifts. And I would see my sisters be stressed out. I would see my mom, what do you guys want? Like, and I could feel the stress, like, even though she didn't say anything, you could feel the stress, coming off of them. And so I was just like, you know what? I got to a point, I was like, we're not buying Christmas gifts anymore. We're done. I was like, we're not doing this anymore. So what we started, as a tradition, was, well, first we started, I would ask people, what do you need? Not what do you want? What do you need? Because the need and the want are two different things. People are like, I don't need anything. Good. Then that means I'm not buying any Christmas gifts, right? I can get you something small, whatever. But if you said, I really need some pots and pans, mine on their last legs. Okay, that's something I can get behind. But I didn't want to go out and buy just frivolous things for them to wind up in the back of the closet or for you to throw them away or for you to get excited about them for 5 minutes and then not use them anymore. So even now that we're older, actually my mom, me and my sisters are older. None of us have kids. So it's just, us sisters and then my parents. So now last year I was like, you know what? I'm not buying Christmas gifts this year. Let's create experiences. Yeah. Let's go to a restaurant that we would typically never, ever go to. Like we just wouldn't go to it because it's too expensive and it's just not our thing. I thought, let's go to these restaurants and be able to order whatever we want, really have fun, enjoy the food, laugh and talk as a family, and then have that memory to share. So now that's, and of course now with COVID, I'm like, I'm not going out to eat, so I don't know how I'm gonna do Christmas.
You got a Zoom dinner all over the place.
Yeah, so
yeah.
But so that's a new tradition that we created. We want to be able to share experiences with our family, instead of, the family feeling like we have to go on a date, we got to do this, we got to buy that, for Christmas. So even now when people ask me, what do you want for Christmas? I don't want any, actually I want a lot of stuff, but I don't need anything. So, and what I want, you definitely aren't going to buy me. So nothing,
Exactly.
We kind of did that for our girls' birthdays. Their birthdays are really close together. And this year, like their godmothers and my parents and his parents, everyone, they always just buy a bunch of stuff and half the stuff they don't play with. And they were like, we came with that idea. We said, well, look, what they really need, and then because we have another one on the way. Melly, did you do that? And I was
I did. Okay. Like, what? Like, it's been a little month. She's been busy.
Help me, Lord.
Quarantine love.
I know. She had to be early. She was like, oh, we don't lock down. Might as well go ahead.
Right. But one of the things, because of quarantine and COVID, like we're not taking them out to a lot of places. And so we were like, look, we told the girls up front, we're like, so this year for your birthday, we're going to get y'all a play set for the backyard. Mm-hmm. So, we moved in the house maybe a little over a year ago, and they need something. And now with the new baby, like it's going to be perfect to last. And my family was like, I was like, well, would y'all be interested? And everybody, instead of buying them a bunch of gifts, just putting money towards us getting this place set. And they were like, yes, we would love to do that. And I was like the smartest thing ever. Like, so, and I love practical gifts. I'm definitely a practical gift person. Like, please give me something I can use. I would hate to have to re-gift your gift to somebody else.
Right. Right.
Yes, because I will do that.
Yeah.
So Melanie, this was really great. I just enjoyed the conversation and everything. I don't know if you ladies had any other questions for Melody, but
really awesome.
Give her.
could you tell us where we can find you at? And can you let us know when your book's going to be released and the title
That's
again?
exactly what I was going to say.
Yep.
Yes, you can find me on all social media outlets at Broke on Purpose. You can also find me on my website, which is livebrokeonpurpose.com. And I'm one of those people who I will talk to you if you talk to me. So if you have any questions, any comments, you can always send me an email. You can shoot me a message on one of the social media outlets. I'm more active on Instagram than I am the other ones. But I consider myself to be an unofficial accountability partner, even if you've never coached with me. I'm still going to be, cheering you on all the way. So the book that's coming out, I'm so excited for this book. The book coming out, it's called Start Here, Your Guide to Building Your Money Management System. So it will be available it will be available on October 19th. I'm going to say that. It'll be available on October 19th. You'll be able to purchase it either from the Live Broke on Purpose website or on Amazon.com. But if you purchase it from the Broke on Purpose website, you're going to get some goodies to go along with it. So just to let you know. So that will be coming out really, really soon. I wrote that book for people who always ask the question, where do I don't know how to get started with my money. Where do I start? I'm overwhelmed. So start here.
Awesome. I love it. I can't wait for your book. We'll definitely be sharing that with everyone on our platform, on Instagram, and all the places.
Thank you, ladies.
Linda, did you have anything else before we?
No, this was excellent, Melody. Thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome information. My pen is just going. Page of notes here, just the goals and everything around money that, dispelling myths and all those different other things. You definitely gave us and our audience a lot of practical information, things that we can actually do in layman's terms. I think that is the key. So really, really love it. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This was fun. This is very fun. I'm glad you guys got together and started this podcast. This is much needed. These girl conversations are much needed.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we started, just having conversations, and we were like, we need to share this with everybody. Everybody needs to hear these conversations. Yep. It's some that we haven't shared yet, but yeah, everybody needs to hear these conversations. So, Melody, every episode we close out, we like to leave people with at least one actionable thing that they can do to get started right away. So do you have one tip or one thing, if you have to take one action tomorrow, what is something tangible that our audience can do?
So if you were to take one action tomorrow, I would say I want you to create a money binder. Okay, so in this money binder, this is where you're going to set those actionable short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. You are going to have a list of all your debt, how much you owe, who you owe it to, what's the interest rate, and what are the promotions. And you're also going to have a plan for saving money. Okay, and this is just the beginning to get you started on your financial journey. But once you have all that information in place, you're going to be able to really get started and not feel like you're overwhelmed, because everything is going to be available in front of you to create that financial plan. As always, I'm available for one-on-one coaching, as well as VIP intensive. So if you just want to come in, get a quick start, learn as much as you can in 4 hours, then I have those programs available as well.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. You can't know where you want to go unless you have a plan and a roadmap. So yeah, knowing where you are is super important.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. Shauna, do you want to tell our audience where to find us?
Yes, you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and IG at The Heart of Chat. Please join our mailing list. Every Monday, we have a Meatful Monday that will come in your email. And we want you to keep coming and, keep joining us, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to be fuego, baby. Come back, baby.
Yes, we love it. Melody, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye, ladies.
All right, bye, ladies.
Bye, ladies.